Welcome to the Baseball Insiders. We are live on a Friday afternoon, 3:30 Eastern. I'm Adam Weinrib. Robert Murray is off today. Now, we have had a lot of great guests lately. Jess Kleinschmidt, Fabian Ardaya, Sam Phelan, but none of them has spent as much time with Todd Frazier as today's guest, Scott Braun from Foul Territory. Scott, thank you so much for joining us today on the stream.
Adam, great to be on here with you and talk ball for a bit. And also, I am honored to not literally, but figuratively be in Robert Murray's seat. You are very blessed to work with Robert all the time. He is nice as can be. And, a lot of the insiders are super competitive. And I would say you would think that like they're sharks or whatever you want to call it. Like most of them are really nice people too. So Robert fits the bill there. Obviously, I work with Ken Rosenthal all the time, and when you meet him in person, you're like, damn, this guy is next level nice, wants to help people. So anyway, I'll do my best Robert Murray impression by breaking no news, but talking ball with you and just spitting out random opinions.
100% true on Robert. I appreciate it. And yes, I am very honored to have him in this chair. You have, I would say, only one TV behind you at this moment, so not quite a Robert impression, considering his wall is always stacked with like 7 random flat screens. But other than that, I think you're doing a pretty good job so far.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And actually, if I don't want to turn this around right now, but if I did, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I'm counting my computer, 6, phone 7, when I'm on 8. So I'm catching up. They're all different devices, but I am in the studio where we do Foul Territory with AJ and myself every day. So we're pretty souped up. It's not Robert Murray, like ultimate man cave experience, but it's studio craziness with the amount of screens that I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, you are right. I probably should have assumed that you were pretty much on par. But either way, really, truly appreciate you joining us. We're going to talk about the Subway Series that starts tonight. The Juan Soto is back, what the reception might be like. I have an idea of what the reception might be like, but we'll talk about it. It's rivalry weekend, so that means you've got the Yankees and Mets, not the Yankees and Red Sox, but that's a quibble for another day. Plus, some buzz on Paul Skenes and whether a trade might make sense and when it might make sense. Sorry, Pirates fans. The Minnesota Twins win streak has reached 11, and the AL Central is stunningly becoming our strongest division. So we've got to talk about it. Again, everyone, 3:30 Eastern on a Monday or a Friday. The Baseball Insiders are here. We're here at noon on Tuesday talking prospects. We're here at 1 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Again, Robert Murray on the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday shows. If you're not in the Discord, you should be. Become a member. Join us up. You've got an exclusive Q&A with Robert on every Thursday at 3 o'clock in the Rumor Mill tier. You should also subscribe to the Moonshot, our weekly baseball email newsletter, where the Fansided MLB team, including Robert Murray, break down all the biggest stories in the big leagues with humor, insight, behind-the-scenes info. You can also read that on the Baseball Insiders feed on Fansided.com. That is fansided.com/baseball-insiders for a whole bunch of weird stuff. You could just join us on the YouTube channel or your favorite podcast platform and get the live show. So, Scott, let's start off with Soto's return. It is happening. The Yankees have lined up their 3 best starters. You've got Clark Schmidt and Max Fried and Carlos Rodon in this series. The Mets, they don't really have to line up their best starters because every Mets starter is 6-1 with a 2.33 ERA for some reason. I won't ask you what you expect the reception to be for Soto, but how loud do you expect the boos to be? And if you were in these Yankee fans' shoes, like, are they deserved? I don't know. Like, what would you do?
So I've got a separation here. And when Ken was on our show earlier today, I was like, yep, I'm on the same page. If you're a Yankee fan, of course, you're going to boo the crap out of him. Have a great time, right? And Soto is embracing it. He's been talking about it at least all week, if not longer before that. 50,000 against 1, the whole deal. That's fun. I mean, that's good theater. Now, should he be public enemy number 1 for the Yankees? No. I mean, if you're really that pissed that Soto didn't sign back, then public enemy number 1 should be Hal Steinbrenner because he got outbid by Steve Cohen. And if you follow most people in baseball for several years now, or if you have a brain and know that a guy who had turned down over $400 million from the Nationals was going to take lesser money with the most valuable franchise by valuation in Major League Baseball, you're nuts. If the Yankees wanted him that badly, they had to beat the Mets on the offer. We'll never know what that was because the Mets had the highest offer when we got to the end of the sweepstakes. Did he ultimately want to be a Met more than a Yankee? Maybe, but I'll ask you the question that I asked my co-hosts, including Toddfather today on the show. Let's just pick a nice even number. So Soto's guaranteed money in the contract, 765, Adam. If the offer came in from the Yankees at $800 million, would he be able to overlook like the security guard not letting somebody through at some point the season and the suite, whatever? He could buy all the suites with the extra money in that. Would he have taken the 800 million over the Mets 765 million? I have yet to hear someone say no, he was going to be a Met regardless.
Yeah, I'm aligned there. I think he takes the highest number, especially if the guarantees blow the 765 million out of the water like that. Yeah, he's a Yankee, and I think he's made that clear with what he said. Where every time he's approached, he says the Yankees were number one. I think he said it again this week. The Yankees were number one. We couldn't work it out. I'm happy with my decision. Like, yeah, I'm sure. I think both are true. I think the Yankees led the pack most of the way. I think Steve Cohen came in the last 36 hours and said, I will acquiesce to all of your demands. Also, my offer is the highest. Everything about this is undeniable. And he said, I haven't disliked, I felt comfortable with the Mets. It's not like I'm being wooed by $800 million with the Rays, who were saying, by the way, we don't have a stadium. Our roof blew off. Like, there's a lot appealing about the Mets regardless. So, yeah, I think if the Yankees had beaten the offer significantly, he'd be a Yankee. He had strong feelings towards the Yankees, but they didn't, and he had strong enough feelings towards the Mets that when they swooped in and made these concessions, it was pretty easy for him.
So in conclusion, Yankee fans, boo your faces off. I would be right there with you if I cared, on one side of the other and I'm sitting there in the seats. It's fun. That's what you're at a game for. Obviously, keep it clean. Don't do anything ridiculous. I'm from the area. I mean, obviously, there are, it's not just New York. There are fan bases across the country that will get one bad egg, one bad apple that will ruin it for everyone and throw something or do something really stupid. So obviously, please don't do that. But aside from that, I mean, boo your faces off. He's looking forward to it, and I think that's fun. And so I give Juan credit for embracing the moment. Adam, you and I know that sometimes baseball answers can be boring from players. Soto is giving us content. He's giving us real answers. Even when he talked about how there was some missing Judge versus where he was in the lineup. Cool. Let him be honest about how he's feeling. All of that to me is what makes our game more fun and more I'd say easier to cover with storylines when we're in mid-May. So I'm all about that. I just don't want to hear from the people that are like, I hate him so much for life. I'm so mad, blah, blah, blah. Like, he spent one season there. He's not Derek Jeter, right? It wasn't 2 decades. One season. Helped lead your team to a World Series. Was good in the playoffs. And then someone else said they like him better. Because it's not like the Yankees couldn't afford him. So that's my only qualm there is if you're going to be enraged, then you're directing your anger in the wrong direction. If you're just out there to have a good time and be there for the booze, I'm all about it.
Agreed. And he has given this rivalry on Rivalry Weekend more juice than his official energy drink partner, Celsius. So good job by Soto as well. And the defection pays off. Both teams are really talented in ways that we maybe didn't expect. The Yankees, after Soto, built their offseason on pitching, and it turns out they accidentally have one of the best offenses in baseball again. The Mets have this unbelievable pitching staff, and the lineup has been kind of hit or miss, even though pretty hard to argue with the top 4 or 5. Have both teams lived up to your preseason predictions and expectations, even though they're doing it in different ways?
Yeah, I would say so. And on the Yankee side, I mean, I guess actually on both sides, I was concerned about starting pitching, and rightfully so. The Yankees were losing starters left and right. The Mets actually did lose a couple starters. I mean, Frankie Montas is hurt all the time, but Sean Manaea going down was a big blow to them, and obviously he'll be back at some point. But he was so good down the stretch for the Mets, and hopefully he comes back. He's feeling good, and he can contribute to the team. So I would say the surprises, Adam, to me, are that the Yankees had such an offensive burst still post Soto that they can make up for some of those starting pitching injuries. On the Mets side, things have changed. David Stearns has magic, and he brings it over to the Mets, and he was able to do that with the Brewers for years. It's find diamonds in the rough for your bullpen and for your starting rotation. And for him, that saves the team a lot of money on starting pitching and enables them to spend it on guys like Juan Soto. So I would say those two components are surprising to me. The Yankees being able to overcome the starting pitching injuries, the Mets being able to do this in back-to-back years and develop guys. They've got a really special pitching program going on over there. So I think they're both in a better spot, I would say. Not by a lot, but by a hair than I thought they would be. If you told me right now the Mets are in first place with I don't know what their exact lead is right now, but with at least a few games over second, I'd be like, wow, okay, impressive based on what happened in spring training. And for the Yankees, I would say the same thing. I would have expected them to be a little bit closer to the pack, but also the AL East has just been a big flub. It's been a big disappointment. That's, I think, one of the more underrated stories. I know we're going to talk about the Central later, but tell me what you like, what you really like right now in the AL East aside from the Yankees.
Alex Bregman's going to finish top 3 in MVP, and Chandler Simpson's really fast, but I think that's it.
Those teams are flawed, man. The Orioles are the bomb of the first quarter mark of the season, right? The Rays are not off to a great start, and they're about to spend the whole summer on the road. The Blue Jays look like what a lot of people expected them to look like. Offense still not really there, and they're 500-ish. And then the Red Sox, I think a lot of people thought would be better than where they are right now. I think they're going to be very competitive and, compete for a playoff spot, but they certainly don't look like a juggernaut to me.
Yeah, I have the same level of faith in the Red Sox that you do, and I think I'm always trying to counsel Sox fans to continue believing in whatever. And Roman Anthony will be there at some point, right? That will get tighter, but yeah, I expected them to take off to a similar leads where the Mets are, and I expected more out of Walker Buehler, and I expected obviously a full season of Tristan Casas. And there are things that you can't control, but that pitching staff hasn't looked like what I thought they would, and so far they're closer to the middle of that pack. They have not made the same statement as the AL Central teams that you mentioned, and we might as well dive in there now because I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure what led us to this point where the AL Central is the strongest division. I picked the Twins this offseason because I thought that we were dealing with a whole bunch of 86-win teams diving at each other's heels a little bit. I figured that prediction could either look absolutely foolish or right in line with a division where everybody's fine. But the Twins win streak is at 11. The Guardians look like the Guardians. The Royals look like the Royals, the team that uncovered Seth Lugo and Cole Reagans last year. The Tigers are the best team in the division at this moment in time, and they just gave the Red Sox. It's hard to deliver 3 more painful losses in a row than what they just did to the Red Sox in that 3-game series. Even the White Sox showing signs of life, at least showing silver linings for the future and giving chances to a few prospects and probably more to come. What are you? I mean, I don't know if you saw this coming or where you're at, but like gut feeling, like who emerges? Is this the division where we have 3 playoff teams?
Well, we did last year, right?
Yeah.
We had 3 playoff teams last year from the AL Central. So I'm actually not surprised about this. Am I surprised that the Twins bounced back so quickly from that slow start and have won 11 games in a row? Of course. I am not surprised about the Royals or the Tigers, especially. I was the high guy on both, I would say, heading into the year. I mean, everybody makes dumb predictions, but when you make a good one, you got to flex. We did our whole list to start the season for foul territory. Best record in AL, I put down Tigers. I always like to get a little crazy with playoff predictions because there's just so much that can happen between the beginning of the season and the end with injuries and trades and all that. And there's always upsets, or there's often upsets. There wasn't last year, but there usually is when you get to the World Series. So I actually put the Royals in the World Series representing the American League because I was like, I think I can buy into this pitching. There's some guys there, and you can never predict it, that have been pretty durable. I think they're going to be active at the trade deadline. I think Jack Caglione is going to be a big factor for this team. They need power. The outfield for the Royals is the problem. It's been a problem for a couple years now. I think it is something that they might be able to solve at the trade deadline and, with prospects. So I'm not surprised on the Royals. I'm not surprised about the Tigers at all. I thought they'd have the most wins in the American League coming off what they did last year. And really, I think if you go back to like mid-August, they might have, if not the best record, one of the best few records in baseball now. So it's not just this year. You go back now to really a team that found itself in the second half of last season, and they've got more starting pitching depth that's going to help them get through this marathon, which helps. And then even if they do want to do the chaos in the playoffs with one or two starters and then the pitching chaos that AJ Hinch employed last year, they'll be in a better position to do that again since they didn't burn out their relievers. So yeah, I think it's a super talented division. I'm avoiding the Twins a little bit because I don't know what to buy there, and I always still get concerned that you're relying on two or three players to really take off, and they often get hurt. Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton actually collided yesterday. I don't know what the update is. It didn't look like it's something that's going to knock them out for a while, but point is, those two get hurt a lot. And so does Royce Lewis. If those three are playing an entire season, it's a totally different team. I like the pitching that they have. I think there'll be some regression there, though. So I think it's a 4-team race for playoff spots. I do think the Tigers are going to win the division, but I think the other three are really good, and you're going to look at that. Not, I don't want to say really good. I think the other three are competitive, Adam. I think the Twins for me are still fourth. I go right now, the way I power rank that division: Tigers, Royals, Guardians, Twins. But they all might they all have a very good chance of making the playoffs. So I'm a little less surprised than others because we did see this last year, and then there wasn't much in the offseason that convinced me that it wouldn't happen again. The Tigers did add. They didn't add as much as they wanted to. They lost out on the Bregman sweepstakes. The Royals didn't do a ton, but they are a very young team, and I like the core of pitching that they have. Obviously, the Guardians never do much, so I thought they would take a step back, and they still might, right? They still might in the second half. I don't think they're going to run away with the division this year. That's for sure, like they did last year. And then the Twins haven't done anything in 2 years as the sale process continues. So anyway, when you add it all up, I think it's a really strong division, and I'll take the Tigers, the Royals, and I got to think about if I do all my math where I want the Guardians to end up. But I think the Twins will go through some growing pains again.
Yeah, it feels that way. And I think, honestly, Twins fans are probably still blown away that they are where they are right now. But the utter chaos and the randomness of the Tigers' last postseason run, it's funny because they know as well as we do that you can't Brennan Hanafy and Bo Brieske your way back to back through the AL postseason this year. But there is enough of a track record, like you said, back to August of last year, where we know whatever it is, like whether they seem undermanned or overprepared, they have enough talent to be the class of this division and to be a dangerous AL playoff team. So the expectations are there now, but the underlying data showed exactly what we're seeing back to even last year when it was chaos theory.
Mm-hmm. AJ Hinch is one of the better managers in baseball too. I wouldn't sleep on that. I mean, there is a difference, especially come playoff time, in the way that managers put together their decision making. And Hinch isn't just one of the smarter guys. He's a really good psychologist with a young team, and he's been through all of this for a long time. He's more battle tested than most managers are, and that can make a difference as well. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I mean, with the Guardians, I feel like they put themselves in a position where the margin of error can get tight. And this year's a good example. It's like you think Gavin Williams is going to take the next step. He doesn't. The rotation does not look great right now. But they're still obviously in a good spot. What are they, 8, 9 games above 500 right now? So you look at them and you're like, not sexy, but they've been doing this for a while now. So yeah, I give credit to the AL Central. I mean, this also proves the point that was the biggest discussion in the offseason. It is not all about money. A salary cap is not going to, quote, fix Major League Baseball. And also keep in mind, MLB has done I can be as critical as anyone, but they have done a nice job of doing things like compensation picks and drafts, things that do help mid-market and lower market teams in terms of money play catch up. And those levers make a huge difference and lead to what we're seeing with some of these teams right now.
Yeah, the Guardians just have that margin for error is tight. Like you pay Tanner Bybee and you got to really hope Tanner Bybee is the one you should have paid. That said, looking strong again this year, and you've got Corey Kluber, of course, showing up as a special pitching assistant in the last couple of days. So as if you didn't already have faith in the rotation mix and the instruction there, yet another experienced arm able to teach them the ways. Now, I hate to do this to when we're talking about competitive balance, when we were talking about teams maybe in an unfortunate ownership situation that MLB has helped them persist because of certain things they've been given. Sorry to our Pirates fans, we do have to talk about a little bit of rumbling that was made this week, and you got Erik Kratz was the one to sort of break the seal and start discussing whether it's time to entertain a Paul Skenes trade in Pittsburgh before it's too late. It got amplified by Jeff Passan a little bit. The attacks on Bob Nutting, and I think the correct attacks have been numerous this offseason and into the start of the regular season, where they're throwing away memorial bricks in dumps and they're replacing Roberto Clemente ads with Surfside vodka. A lot of reason to be like, hey, not loving the PR stuff going on in Pittsburgh. But Paul Skenes is the number one reason to feel hope, and also the number one reason to be angry with the way that hope is being carried out. A one-of-a-kind asset that is currently the jewel atop a team that is stuck in the mud. So I wonder, when do you think this starts to be more than just a talking point? When does it become a little bit more realistic for the Pirates to think about what Skenes' future looks like? Or maybe it becomes a rallying cry. Maybe they finally hear this noise from Kratz, from Passan, and they start going, all right, we've danced around this enough. We have to get serious now. People are starting to talk about trading Paul Skenes.
Should they talk about it now? When you hear those conversations, like what Erik Kratz brought up, he was talking to Noah Hiles, one of the Pirates beat reporters. I thought it was a very interesting thought exercise. Now, I want to preface all of this with the way that the business of sports and baseball works. Each team is run by one dictator. One. They don't make every little decision. They're not constructing the lineup. I don't know, maybe some are, but most aren't, right? That's more from the front offices these days. But when it comes to big decisions, Bob Nutting gets to make the call on if they want to receive, trade offers for Paul Skenes and actually entertain them. There's no way right now that he would even touch that, no matter the circumstances and no matter if there's something that actually makes sense. Relevancy Today is a segment we did with Ken Rosenthal about an article that he put out this morning saying how badly the Angels botched the entire Shohei Ohtani experience from start to finish. And that included the finish line of the season, his last season with the Angels, when Ken reported on how there was a possibility Jackson Merrill would have been a prospect flipped over to the Angels in a trade for Ohtani. They kept him. They stunk. Artie Moreno, the owner, wanted to sell a few more seats down the stretch and take advantage of those final days of having Shohei Ohtani. And the business and the dollars on the short term overruled what they were thinking on the long term and burned them. Bob Nutting is the same type of owner. He doesn't know baseball. He's going to just look out at the books and the ballpark and Paul Skenes and say, I'm going to ride this out as long as I can. And then eventually we'll keep walking and we'll walk right off the plank and into the ocean and lose him. The thing that I think is emerging is that it's going to be very difficult to keep him. Originally, last year, he comes up and, you're like, hey, maybe the Pirates finally invest in their team a little bit more. Like, there's one component that you still have to participate in, even if you don't participate as much. You have to do something in free agency. And Bob Nutting, for a long time now, has said no long-term investments in free agency. I don't know any team that's going to have success if they don't touch it by any means, like zero. It's just so hard to do. Even, the Rays, who are looked at as like the Moneyball team of the East, like they signed Ha-Seong Kim this offseason. I don't know how he'll be when he come back, but the point is they still do make offers. They still do bring in guys in free agency. The Pirates essentially don't partake in that component of the game. So that's always going to be a problem. So now let's flip it to Paul Skenes, Adam. If you're him, you're going to have to be blown away with an offer that's so far above any comps we've ever seen in history of a player under team control. Otherwise, why would you stay there? It's baseball is so tied to who is running the franchise. What does that dictator do? What does he think about? Does he care about winning? All of those answers are very easy and proven for a long period of time with Bob Nutting. So if I know Paul Skenes the way I do from covering him and looking at the way that he conducts himself and the way that he talks about the game, there's no way that he's staying. So should they entertain this? Of course. We're still a few years away from that, from obviously the discussion becoming like Dyer. Hey, there's 2 years left. At that point, you have to trade him when you know that he's not staying if you're Pittsburgh and you want to survive. But I still think we're, you were the second year in, so he's got how many years left? 4 or 5 years left. I would give it another couple years until Bob Nutting starts to get a little bit uncomfortable.
Well, if you wanted to live up to the precedent set by Robert Murray, I would say that Bob Nutting bashing segment was very much aligned with what he typically brings to this chair. And probably the moments when this show has gotten the most comments from people going, oh, whoa, okay, you're willing to say that. All right, great. Yeah, we might not be, the clock isn't ticking, but like there's a guy holding the clock. The clock is visible. We're looking at the clock.
Yeah, and we know what's going to happen, right? I mean, wouldn't we all be shocked if all of a sudden they hand him just a ridiculous amount of cash that keeps him there? That's the only way. You're not going to convince him with the recent history of the franchise, with the current roster, right? I mean, this team's a mess. They were supposed to take another step forward. They have not. There are a few nice pieces, but they are free agent signings away. Also, I'm not going to overlook the fact that Ben Cherington has not done a great job with his, we always joke about 5-year plan. Now it's 6 years, right? So we always say, with franchises like this, someone comes in and they try and put themselves in a position to play the long game as best as possible, because that does give you a good chance of a full tank to get yourselves into some of these teams that have found a lot of success with that. I mean, the Orioles were in that boat. Now it's kind of fading already. They tanked for what, 6 years? Obviously, the Astros, the Cubs, teams like that were kind of the poster children for the ultimate tanking job. But it's also called the 5-year plan that we joke about, because it gives you at least 5 years of employment making 7 figures with the team. If you're running a franchise, I mean, they all basically are in that boat these days. So I would be surprised if he's still running the team next year. I mean, they're not going to finish out well. It's not going to suddenly change here. It wasn't the manager's fault. Let's be real. So there's a lot to clean up there. And I think Paul is already getting a little bit more unfiltered in his answers. And to me, that says it all. He is not going to be happy for several years under what is a bottom 3 owner in the sport who just does not give a crap.
And if Pirates fans think it's bad now, just wait for him to have that Dwayne Wade, LeBron, Chris Bosh winter on Team USA next year, meeting some friends from across the league who may eventually factor into this decision.
Correct. And be like, wait, they, I mean, make something up. Actually, like I'll bring real life show examples. AJ Przinsky told me about how like the Twins, under the Polads, who still own the team, but hopefully won't soon, would like make them pay for like sweatshirts or pullovers or stuff that like other teams would be like, that's crazy. So you'll even get some of those stories like, wait, you guys get this for free, or you guys have this kind of technology set up, or I mean, just go down the line, right? I mean, Bob Nutting is cutting corners any place, any way that he can. He has no business owning a franchise. There's not one person that could get on a show and say, hey, let me tell you why this is the right guy for the job. But that's just not how sports work. It does create these conversations. It creates the venting that we're able to do. But at the end of the day, I think it eventually hits a point where there's boiling frustration and you wish that there was something that could be done to change things, because he could hold this franchise forever, milk money out of it, and clearly he's unfazed by the temperament of the city. But you're hearing the same kind of chants at him now in Pittsburgh that you heard last year. Now they're not moving the team, but I think the frustration is boiling to that level of incompetence from the guy at the top.
And you can't even email him like you can Dick Monfort in the Rockies. So what are fans supposed to do? They chant. It's the best thing that they have. Scott Braun, thank you so much for joining me today. Great Friday show. Ending it with some frustration, some fan frustration. That's what we do here. We really appreciate you coming over from Foul Territory and helping us out today. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you, Adam. This was fun. Enjoyed the combo. Yeah, we do plenty of this over here on Foul Territory as well. A lot of venting. And I'll finish with this because I always like to react to some fan comments. I don't know. I mean, I'm at least seeing this on my screen. Andrew said, "Are you guys going to talk about the Vetter Cup?" I think that's a funny way to go out here.
Yeah.
I'm all about rivalry weekend. I think that's fun, lining everyone up. I think it should be called like, I think they should make sure it's clear to everyone that it's geographic rivals, which is playing to what you're saying, right? It's Yankees Red Sox is different from Yankees Mets, but geographic rivals, I think, makes sense. You're going to still have a few kids that don't know where to sit, like at the lunch table, and that's the Padres Mariners series. So when I saw that, I was like, Vetter Cup, and I looked it up, and Eddie Vedder is cool and been great voice in our sport as like a celebrity fan of the Cubs. And I
The
know
Cubs.
what he was born in one of the cities and spent a lot of time in the other. That is one of the biggest marketing stretches of all time. So I would have just said we had to put these two together. So it's the Padres and the Mariners, and it should be a fun series. But that was tough. The marketing team really spent a lot of hours in the boardroom working on that one.
Yeah, I mean, that 2016 Cubs song is an all-time classic. I don't know if he's got a similarly heart-wrenching one about the Mariners and Padres facing off last summer. I don't recall. Yeah, I can't. Braves, Red Sox too. Is that just like a Boston Braves thing? We were going over this today. We couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, that's just going back in time where basically nobody, is old enough to really make that a thing anymore. I think, eventually you just have to work with the schedule that you have. So I get all of that. Like, it's a stretch. It's hard to put all of that together and make it line up with the scheduling. So you're going to have some series where you look at them and you're like, huh? I mean, even what's the Orioles series this weekend? Orioles Blue Jays, I think it is this weekend.
I
Is
think
that what
they've
it
got
is? I think.
I think they have the Nats, but
Oh,
I
they do
do
have the
think.
Nats? Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that the Pirates have Bob Nutting. They're facing off. I thought that was weird. They have no opponent. It's just Pirates versus Bob Nutting.
The Pirates versus Nutting. Oh, like,
Yeah,
okay, sorry. We have the Jays and the Tigers. What was that one labeled for?
yeah. Old AL East rivals from the late '80s. I don't know.
Like, okay. I mean, it's fine. We've got plenty of good ones lined up. And again, like, that should be a fun competitive series. It's just wanted to give a little tip of the cap to some marketing departments that had got the homework from MLB, like, make all of these series sound really cool on a poster. And you're like, there's not really much of a rivalry here, but okay, we'll do our best.
Yeah, get Vetter on board. Who can draw Vetter? Like, who get an AI Vetter? What are we doing? Scott, thank you again for helping us through here today and talking us through whatever the marketing gurus clock up for this weekend. Hey, Yankees Mets definitely stands out. Juan Soto definitely. We will see what you have in store for us. And Scott, we'd love to have you on again another time and hopefully talk about some brighter days in Pittsburgh, maybe someday, or at least something, some tides beginning to turn.
Yeah, book me for 2038. I'm already taking phone calls for the calendar there. But yeah, Adam, this was great. Really enjoyed the combo and what you guys do over here at Fansided. So thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thanks so much. For everybody else, we'll see you here Monday, 3:30 Eastern. Robert Murray will be back. The flat screens will be in view, probably, I think. I don't think he's in Wisconsin anymore. And we will pick up the Baseball Insiders again next week and on all audio platforms. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody.